What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to another video on the channel, and in today's video we have the weekend recap. So we'll be recapping all the action that took place over the weekend. We've got some Premier League to bring you. We've got some La Liga results. We're going to talk about the F1. We're going to talk about the UFC Fight Night. And then we also are going to touch on Jake Paul versus Tyron Woodley. Super disappointing performance from Tyron Woodley, but we will touch on that more during the video. So as always, a thumbs up if you enjoyed, a thumbs down if you didn't, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace. Okay, so as always, we will start it off with the Manchester United game from the weekend. So we'll start all of these recaps a bit more in-depth than we'll go in all the other games due to me being an avid Manchester United supporter. So over the weekend, Manchester United played Wolves. We managed to scrape out a 1-0 victory. As you can see from the stats there, Wolves did make quite a few chances. It was quite disappointing while watching to just see how many chances Wolves were creating. They're constantly getting up the other end, putting in crosses, moving the ball, creating good chances, and which is really not what Manchester United was doing. I mean, barring the two Mason Greenwood chances, the one he scored and then the one that the keeper saved in the first half, I can't really think of many other chances that we created, which is a bit disappointing considering, we've got some world-class attacking players on the field, but it just all stems down back to the midfield. If you've got very good defense, because I think Champions League Varane had a fantastic game, especially his first game in the Premier League. You know what I mean? He didn't look like he was struggling playing against a pacey, strong team in Wolves. You know what I mean? He showed some great qualities in being able to deal with Adama Traore. I think he did very well. I think Adama would just mug off Fred, just run past him like he didn't exist. And then he tried that with Varane a couple times, and Varane was like, just relax, guy. I'm Champions League Varane. Just know your place. So yeah, super disappointing. Once again, Fred got 90 minutes, which I don't understand how Fred can keep getting 90 minutes. I mean, how bad must Donny be? He must not be able to pass. He must not have feet to run. How can he not get any minutes? Oli brought on Diogo Dalot at the end of that game instead of bringing on Donny to maybe try freshen up the midfield for Fred, something like that. Nothing. Yeah, we can also talk about Fred and Pogba playing in the pivot together, which is just, it's turning into Pog Fred, you know what I mean? They're delving into one person. The number of times Fred was more advanced than Pogba was more than 5 times, which is 5 times more than it should happen. If Pogba is in the midfield, he should always be the free man moving around, and the other person should be staying at it's just, why would Pogba be the one behind Fred? Why is Fred moving forward aggressively to go attack? I don't understand. That all stems back to Oli. We've been speaking about it for a while on the channel with regards to Oli just not really being able to just do it. Like, he just does the weirdest things. He plays these weird teams that he puts out with his shitty midfields and his shitty style of play, and it's going to bite us. It's going to bite us because barring that amazing Aaron Wan-Bissaka save in the first half where he literally slides in and clears it off the goal line, and that fantastic double save that De Gea made, those are 2 goals. We only scored 1. We would have lost that game. And you obviously can't be like, oh, boring. Yeah, but it's tough, bro. And then you talk about our goal. In live time, I did think it was a foul that Pogba committed on Ruben Neves. After watching it back, I still think it's a foul. You know what I mean? I think we got very lucky. Pogba goes over the ball, catches a tiny bit of the ball, if that, and then catches Ruben Neves on the shin. I mean, we've seen red cards given for that, so the fact that it wasn't a foul at all was a bit shocking to me, because even in live time, I said while watching the game, right before Mason was about to shoot, I was like, please don't score from this attack, because it's just going to get disallowed. And then we scored, and I was like, and then it wasn't disallowed, and I was like, what? So yeah, I don't really understand VAR. Even in the first half when Mason Greenwood took that nice shot and that keeper made that world-class fingertip save, and you can see it deflects like this much off the keeper's fingers, and the ref's just like, goal kick. So what's the point of VAR? You know how fast the VAR could be in his ear before the keeper's even picked the ball up to get ready to put it down to take a goal kick? He could be like, yeah, bro, keeper saved that. It's a corner. But no, because it ruins the flow of the game. I mean, VAR has been one of the worst implemented things in football over the past 10 years. it doesn't work very well. It's not constantly getting the right results. It's sometimes delaying the action. It's sometimes ruining the magic of someone scores, but the linesman had their flag up and then they VAR check it and then it actually is a goal, which is correct. We want the correct outcome, but it just ruins the celebration, ruins the moment. So I don't know. My opinion's a bit divided with regards to VAR, but huge bright side for Manchester United. We got 3 points. Hopefully, our next game against Newcastle next weekend, Cristiano Ronaldo will be there. That's something we didn't talk about. That's something that happened between the last weekend recap and this weekend recap. Manchester United signed Cristiano Ronaldo. So, I mean, like what? Like, that is wildness. So, yeah, that'd be very exciting to see. But at the same time, it's like, what chances did we make when Cavani came on? Cavani had 40 minutes. And Cavani's not an Anthony Martial type player. Cavani runs. He works hard. And we made almost 0 chances for him. So it's like, what is Ronaldo going to change? If we don't make chances, you know what I mean? I mean, you can say Mason Greenwood's making his own chances, but I mean, are we going to have to constantly keep relying on moments of brilliance in order to keep scraping out these results? I mean, the unbeaten away record continues, which is very nice. But at the same time, it's like we need to start playing better football. Wolves outplayed us here. They were dominating us. They were constantly on the attack. Big pressure, big pressure, big pressure. And they're just toothless up front. They just couldn't. Thank God Adama Traore is just a baby oil merchant, and that's all he's good at, is just being fast. Because if he had any accuracy in either of those feet with regards to shooting and crossing and all of that, it'd be big trouble for the Premier League, because he is rapid. He moves. How fast he goes from, he runs in front of you and then like slows down, and then he flicks the ball and takes like 3-4 steps, and the player hasn't even moved yet. He is rapid, Adama. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how Wolves compete. I mean, Wolves still haven't scored a goal in the Premier League, which is pretty embarrassing. But yeah, Manchester United, 3 points. We now go off into the international break, which is giga lame. Nobody likes the international break, and it just means now I have to wait even longer to see Christie. So I hate the international break even more. But yeah, let's get on to the next game. The next match we will be looking at will be Manchester City versus Arsenal. Manchester City 5, Arsenal 0. Arsenal still have yet to score a goal in the Premier League. I mean, you look at these stats, and I mean, as a training exercise, that's literally a training exercise for Manchester City. They had 81% possession, 25 shots to Arsenal's 1. And if you watch the game, the one shot Arsenal had was because Ederson was fucking around in his box and he got charged down when he was trying to kick the ball, and it ricocheted off Smith Rowe and missed the goals. That was the only chance. So technically, Arsenal created 0 chances for themselves. Arsenal had a 67% pass accuracy. I mean, it's ridiculous. Look at that. Look, in 19% possession, Arsenal had 3 offsides. So basically, 90% of the time they were passing, it was just to an offside man. I mean, something has to change over there at Arsenal. Something has to change, because, I mean, performances like this, it's embarrassing. You know what I mean? Obviously, there's levels between Manchester City and Arsenal. But, I mean, a performance like this, it doesn't even look like Arsenal belong in the Premier League with the performance like that. Like, in my opinion, if Pep hadn't brought on Sterling, who was just goal hungry and being very selfish and not playing very well, this could have been 6, 7, 8. Arsenal was nowhere. They were nowhere. Even Leno made a couple good saves. Like, Arsenal was nowhere. It looked like a training ground routine from Manchester City. So, I mean, Manchester City looking good if you're a Manchester City fan, which is a bit scary for everyone else. But yeah, Arsenal, big issues over there at Arsenal. In my opinion, they say sack Arteta. What's a new manager going to be able to do with those players? Those players aren't even championship quality players. The defense. I mean, under 16s. You could go grab under 16s and they'll defend better than Arsenal. It was embarrassing, the performance that Arsenal put out, I understand, obviously, they do still have some injuries. Ben White coming in, Gabriel coming in will hopefully secure that defense a little bit. I mean, 100% be better than those clowns that were playing on the weekend, because that was just embarrassing. I mean, we're not even going to talk about Granit Xhaka. I mean, he is the most embarrassing player in the Premier League. The fact that he got a contract extension shows you exactly the state that Arsenal is in. They extended Granit Xhaka's contract. Arsenal's a joke club. Arsenal's banter FC, and if you argue with me, Just look at the stats again. On to the next game. The next match we will be looking at will be Liverpool versus Chelsea. Points shared, 1 apiece for each team. It was a very exciting game in the first half. It looked very end-to-end, very open, very creative. And then Reece James got a red card, which, I mean, I've seen people saying, oh, it's not, it's 100% a red card. You can't, I think the only way it couldn't have been a red card would have been in a situation where his arm was a little bit behind his back, maybe a little bit out, such as this, and it ricochets off him. But I mean, his arm's over here. He moves it forward when the ball's on his, I mean, it's just, you can't not say that that's a red card. Red card penalty, which, I mean, completely changed the complexion of the game. The entirety of the second half, Chelsea were just defending. They did incredibly well. Edouard Mendy, I mean, in my opinion, he's the best goalkeeper in the Premier League at the moment. He's looking very, very solid. So are Chelsea's defence. Rudiger looking very solid once again. Liverpool looking a bit toothless. They did have a couple very good chances. And, I mean, if you think about it, barring that penalty, they wouldn't have scored. So interesting. But I mean, at the same time, Chelsea's goal was Kai Havertz hit it with the back of his head into the top corner. So I mean, those are a 1 in a million. You know, you could give Havertz 35 chances from that exact same ball in. He's not getting that with the back of his head into the top corner again. He's just not. I understand professional football play. He's just not. That's not happening. I mean, pretty disappointed that red card robbed us of an exciting second half. I mean, obviously not if you're a Liverpool fan. That was exciting because you were just pounding on Chelsea at the end there, but resilient defense from Chelsea managed to steal a point. 10-man Chelsea at Anfield. I mean, cannot complain about that. A full Anfield house managing to keep a clean sheet for the entirety of the second half. Very good performance from Chelsea. Liverpool looking a bit dangerous. I mean, I don't know. Matip got burnt quite a few times from Lukaku, and then you could see the difference between Virgil and Matip. So I don't know what's wrong with Konate, because they bought Konate. So I think if Konate can find his feet running in the Premier League, I think Konate, Virgil van Dijk will be a very formidable centre-back partnership. So it'll be interesting to see how the rest of the Premier League plays out. Okay, then we'll just take a quick look at the Premier League table, how it stands going into the first international break. We have Tottenham and West Ham up top. I definitely would not have expected that Tottenham would be top. I mean, they've got 3 1-0 victories, which, I mean, solid. They're scoring goal and they're not conceding. So, you can't be mad with Tottenham, but look at Tottenham top. Very interesting. We've then got West Ham, Manchester United, Chelsea, Liverpool, Everton, all on 7 points. So very interesting. There will definitely be some movement there. Then we've got City, Brighton, Leicester, all tied on 6 points. We then have Brentford, Villa, Watford, Southampton, Crystal Palace, Leeds, Burnley, Newcastle, Wolves, Norwich, and then in last place at the bottom, man said the crumbs under the table. They're not even at the bottom. They're under the table. Is Arsenal. So yeah, pretty embarrassing. But this is how the Premier League table shapes up going into the first international break. Okay, next we have a bit of La Liga action for you. We have Barcelona versus Getafe. I don't really know how to pronounce Getafe. So Barcelona won this 2-1. All 3 goals were scored in the first half. Pretty boring second half. Interesting to see Memphis hitting the ground running at Barcelona. That's something I'm very glad to see. I like Memphis. I think he'll fit the style of Barcelona very well. I may have said that in the last one, but I think he'll fit the style of Barcelona very well. You can see once again Barcelona just dominating possession, playing the way Barcelona plays, keeping the ball. I mean, didn't create very many chances. Only made 7 shots with 67% possession. So, I mean, interesting, but I don't feel like Barcelona is the real pepper. They try work the ball in and create very good chances to score from. So interesting. Getafe, I didn't really watch much of the game. I saw a bit of the highlights. Getafe, I had a couple chances. I saw Ter Stegen made a couple saves. So, interesting to see what happens over there in the La Liga. It would have been interesting to see if Real Madrid could have signed Mbappe. I think that would have made it very interesting. But interesting to see how the rest of the La Liga plays out due to Barcelona playing quite well. I mean, interesting to see what happens when we get the first El Clasico. Next game, we have Real Madrid 1, Real Betis 0. I did watch this game. Pretty boring game. One chance made in from Dani Carvajal. Dani Carvajal scoring the winning goal. As you can see from the stats here, Real Betis came to play. More passes, more possession. Interesting game. Good couple chances from both teams. Nabil Fekir had a few interesting chances for Real Betis. And pretty boring game. an interesting game. Once again, I said it in the previous thing. It'll be interesting to see how the rest of the La Liga shapes up with, I don't want to say lots of the talent, but a lot of talent leaving Spain. You've got Ramos, Varane, Messi, all these players leaving Spain. So it'll be interesting to see how Spanish football, as a La Liga, not as the Spanish nation, as La Liga competes this season. It'll be interesting to see. Let's just check what the table is down at the bottom here. I don't know much to say about that game, if I'm going to be entirely honest. So at the top of here, we have Real Madrid, Sevilla, Valencia, Barcelona, Atletico Madrid, and Mallorca, all on 7 points after 3 games. Interesting. Then we have Real Sociedad, Osasuna, Athletic Club, Rayo Vallecano, Villarreal, Cadiz, yeah, Levante, Real Betis. Oh wow, Betis only have 2 points. Means they drew their previous 2 games. Then we have Elche. That's the first time I've ever seen that. They must have got promoted this season. Espanyol, Granada, Celta Vigo, Getafe. Oh wow, Getafe have 0 points. And then Alaves. Wow, interesting. I don't really know much about Spanish football, so I'm borderline don't even need to give an opinion. I know the top couple teams, so it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how the rest of the La Liga plays out. Stay tuned for more La Liga action. Okay, and then before we leave football for this weekend recap, we have, by special demand by Mr. Monkey Man, we have PSV versus Groningen. I don't watch the Eredivisie, so I don't know how to pronounce that. Gakpo's first name is Cody. Interesting. The more you learn, the more you learn. But PSV 5, Groningen 2. Interesting. They got absolutely smoked. When I tuned in like the 20th, in the 20th minute, I tuned in and it was already 2-1. And I was like, oh, this looks like an interesting game. But yeah, PSV just showed their class against a team that I've never heard of. And just turned up against them and really just put them to the sword at the end of the game. So yeah, interesting to see what will happen in the Eredivisie. As we can see, PSV are the only ones currently at the top of the table here that have won all 3 of their games. Ajax behind them. Utrecht, shout out to where Conky lives. I'm not going to read through the table because I don't know any of those teams, nor do I care. But yeah, interesting to see how PSV goes. They did lose midweek. It may have been the previous week, or they didn't lose technically. They drew 0-0 to Benfica, which got them kicked out of the possibility of the Champions League and down into the Europa League. So pretty disappointing if you're a PSV fan. But I mean, performances like this, they're currently at the top of the table. It'll be interesting to see if they can keep it up for the rest of the Eredivisie season. Okay, next we will take a look at the F1 results for the weekend. I mean, I put results in inverted commas because they didn't race at all. It was an incredibly waterlogged Spa-Francorchamps Grand Prix. I mean, when I tuned in earlier in the day, I even went to go check the weather forecast on my cell phone, hoping for rain, being like, make it an exciting Grand Prix. And the rain was like, oh, I got you, cuz. Yeah, and then it just rained completely, and we didn't even get any racing. Pretty disappointing, but I mean, completely understandable that there was no racing. It was the conditions were nowhere near safe enough for the drivers to go out and compete, especially on a track like Spa with fast corners, with not much runoff into the barriers. We saw the incident that happened the previous year, in the F2. Charles Leclerc, Lando Norris in qualifying had a big accident as well. So for the safety of the drivers, they didn't give them a run out, but because they got, I think, 3 laps behind the safety car, half points were awarded. So technically, this is the results from the Grand Prix: Max Verstappen, George Russell, Lewis. So technically, just Saturday's qualifying results, then just in the grid. So yeah, interesting. They get half points. I mean, it'll be interesting to see if these half points come back and make a difference, because Max Verstappen technically gets 12.5. I don't know if they round it up to 13 points for the race. So I mean, it'll be interesting to see if it comes down to the end of the thing, if there's a tight gap between Oaks and these points actually come invaluable, which I mean, I think will be a bit unfair. I think qualifying would have been a bit different had they have known where you qualify will be where you finish. I mean, as you can see, number 2 there, George Russell. Incredibly impressed with George Russell there. Up until Max, I think Max was the last one to put it through in quali. I thought George Russell had pole. I was so excited for George. I'm very excited for the next season or the season after, when George eventually gets to Mercedes, because I do think he's a very good driver, and it'll be exciting to see 2 exciting drivers at Mercedes really challenging for the top. But I mean, overall, very disappointing weekend in the Formula One. I would have loved to have seen some Grand Prix racing, especially because it's been away for a while. It'll be interesting to see when it comes back. Hopefully we get a bit of racing. Okay, and then to wrap up the weekend recap, we will finish it off with a bit of fighting that occurred over the weekend. There was Essen Barboza versus Chikadesa. I don't know. I haven't been watching with sound, so I just have to read his name. I haven't been able to hear the way the commentators pronounce his name, so I do apologize for pronouncing his name like a bit of a robot. But yeah, I watched the highlights of the fight. Or watched the whole fight as well. Giga Chikadesa. I'll just call him Giga from now on. Monster coming in, throwing his hands, throwing his legs. You can see he's not afraid. You can see Edson Barboza's, on the down cycle. You can see the difference between this Edson and Edson from, 7 fights ago when Edson was he'd be the one blasting you with kicks and mixing up the kicks and throwing hands, and then now it's Giga because he's on the up. So interesting to see the curve of the life cycle in the UFC. Once everyone gets old, the punches start slowing down, the kicks start slowing down. But yeah, it was a third round TKO from Giga. Yeah, he had a couple. I thought he was going to choke him out with that. Was it a DAS or was it an Anaconda? I think it was an Anaconda. Yeah, I think it was an Anaconda, and it looked like he was about to choke him out. He walked his legs all the way around, tight into that Anaconda, tight into the Anaconda. But beautiful submission defense from Edson Barboza. Get up, and as he got up, he just hit him with a punch, and he fell back down, and then the ref called it. Rightly so. So yeah, interesting to see where Giga goes from here. I mean, I think he was ranked number 10 in the featherweight division. So I think he called out Max Holloway afterwards. I mean, yeah, dude, call Max Holloway out at your peril. If you've been around the channel for a while, you know my feelings about Max Holloway. He's an absolute unit. I love Max Holloway. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see other notable fights on the card. Hello. I just deal with these technical difficulties live. I was literally just looking at all their names. Okay, it was Kevin Lee got beaten by, I think it's Daniel Rodriguez in a unanimous decision. Kevin Lee going up in weight class, just not looking big enough in my opinion. And then now for the final, we will do this live. For the final of the evening, it was Jake Paul. Okay, let me just learn to talk. For the final thing we will be recapping for this video, it was Jake Paul versus Tyron Woodley. It went a split decision to, I mean, what of these do I click on? Do I click on CBS Sports? Let's see. Earns a split decision victory. We get the scorecards. 75, 77, for Woodley. Wow, interesting. Yeah, from what I've heard, Tyron Woodley just the same Woodley of old in the UFC. If you've watched Tyron Woodley's past fights, it's just disappointment watching him fight. It's just he's this monster of a man. He's yoked. He's got all these muscles. He's fast. He's aggressive, and you can see he just doesn't have that hunger and that fight anymore. Apparently he wasn't throwing lots of punches. He wasn't, you know what I mean? I thought Tyron Woodley would walk this. You know what I mean? Walk this. Tyron Woodley's a professional fighter. Jake Paul's a YouTuber. You know what I mean? But once again, Tyron Woodley disappointing the MMA world like he did with his past 5 fights. So yeah, very interesting to see where Jake Paul goes from here. In my opinion, Tyron Woodley should go to retirement. Like, just stop. And he'll be like, oh, I'm going to knock this dude out. I'm going to come in strong. And then he just does nothing and disappoints us once again. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where Tyron Woodley goes from here. But yeah. Okay, so that was the weekend recap. If there's anything I didn't recap that you would like me to recap, make sure to leave it down in the comment section and I will get into it next week. I mean, next week's recap will be a bit quicker as there's only international football to run through, no Premier League or La Liga for that matter. So pretty boring. So let's hope next week other sports really pull their socks so we have a bit of content for the weekend recap. But as always, thumbs up if you enjoyed, a thumbs down if you didn't, and I will catch you all in the next one. Peace.